My name is H.A. Goodman, and I'm an author, columnist, and journalist. Hit subscribe right now. There's so many things taking place. You definitely want to you want to subscribe to this channel because this is one of the few places that's going to cut through the propaganda and the spin, especially from the left. Sometimes from the right also, but mainly from the left. The propaganda and spin, just from Kavanaugh to everything regarding Trump, is overwhelming. They have an infatuation with Trump. Jim Acosta is now a saint. So the left, or the mainstream, is completely out of its mind. And it's propped up by people who claim to be against the system when they're just pawns of the system. And that's a whole other story. Hit subscribe right now. Clinton will be indicted. I stated that she wouldn't win in 2016. I was 100% accurate on that. She did not win. I'll be right about Clinton being indicted. Matthew Whitaker, the new Attorney General, actually wants her indicted. He wrote an op-ed in USA Today stating in more emphatic terms than even I have ever stated that Clinton should be indicted. Anyway, I do not derive any glee from Justice Ginsburg, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, falling and being hospitalized, fracturing ribs in a fall, CNN. God bless her. I want her to live till 100, 110. I have no issue with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, although I moved from the left to a lot more conservative. I'm, a gun owner. I'm a member of the NRA, Gun Owners of America. So, and I'm a Trump supporter. So my value system has changed, primarily because the left and pundits on the left and the media has they've become lunatics. But let's look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg for a second. And hopefully she's not replaced. I want her to live a long life, much longer life. She's 85 now. I want her to live till 110. I have no ill will towards Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'm not like people on the left who would derive great enjoyment if something, God forbid, happened to a person on the right. Look at what's taking place with Tucker Carlson. They're threatening, literally threatening. People are staging threatening protests outside his house. And yet, that's not viewed as inciting violence. The words of Maxine Waters, the words of Hillary Clinton, that you can't be civil, they're not inciting potential violence. But everything Trump says incites violence, even though he doesn't say be uncivil, even though he doesn't say get in people's faces. What the left has done, or what liberals have done, or what some progressives pundits have done, is they've said, well, we view this euphemism to be all-encompassing, and therefore, since we think Trump embodies that euphemism, therefore, crazed maniacs on the right take Trump's words, and it filters in their brains, and then they are motivated to commit heinous acts. They make logical leaps, absurd leaps of logic all the time. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if God forbid she is she has ribs, broken ribs, she's being hospitalized, she's 85, she's had other health issues. Very likely, I'm not certain at all, but very likely Amy Coney Barrett would be the replacement. Amy Coney Barrett, let me just read what the Huffington Post says about Amy Coney Barrett. Amy Coney Barrett, 46, is a former Notre Dame law professor and one-time Supreme Court clerk to conservative firebrand Antonin Scalia. She was appointed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit last year and has served on the bench for only 8 months. During the confirmation process for the 7th Circuit seat, questions from prominent Democrats about how Barrett has written about her Roman Catholic faith and its potential influence on her legal opinions helped lift her profile in conservative circles. Democrats were concerned in part over a 1998 article co-written by Barrett that argues Catholic judges should consider recusing themselves from some cases involving the death penalty because of their potential moral objections to capital punishment. At the time, I think whatever a religion is, it has its own dogma. The law is totally different, and I think in case in your case, Professor, when you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you. This is Senator Feinstein, and that's a concern when you come to big issues that large numbers of people have fought for years in this country. So that doesn't make too much sense if Amy Coney Barrett argued that Catholic judges should consider recusing themselves. It makes no sense at all on Feinstein's part. Why would the dogma live loudly within Amy Coney Barrett if she's actually saying, look, Catholic judges should recuse themselves if their moral judgment is influenced by their theological or religious beliefs? During the confirmation process of the Seventh Circuit seat, questions from prominent Democrats about how Barrett has written about her Roman Catholic faith and its potential influence on her legal opinions helped lift her profile in conservative circles. Democrats were concerned in part over a 1998 article co-written by Barrett that argues Catholic judges should recuse themselves from some cases involving the death penalty because of their potential moral objections to capital punishment. She wasn't referring to herself. She was actually being extremely objective and impartial and fair. I don't know how Democrats would spin that, but they spin everything. At the time, Barrett rejected the notion that her faith would influence her work as a judge. So, of course, JFK went through this. Mitt Romney went through this because he was Mormon. JFK went through this because he was Catholic. Now, Amy Coney Barrett, if she's picked by Trump, will go through this again. I would love to see Democrats dig a political grave in going after a woman and going after a Catholic woman and see what happens to them in the Midwest of this country in 2020. See how many states they lose miserably. If you're asking whether I take my faith seriously and I'm a faithful Catholic, I am, although I would stress that my personal church affiliation or my religious beliefs would not bear on the discharge of my duties as a judge. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a Jewish person, is a Jew like me. Nobody has ever questioned her faith, even though I don't believe she's very religious. Nonetheless, if Amy Coney Barrett, if her religion does not influence her view, her analysis, or her judgments on the Constitution, if she evaluates the Constitution, if she bases her rulings upon interpretations of the Constitution, what does her religion have to do with anything? Could you imagine if Keith Ellison, who, by the way, actually, the case against Ellison regarding misconduct is far greater than Kavanaugh. We've noticed that the Democrats don't care. But let's say he becomes a Supreme Court pick of a future president. Would anyone say that his Muslim faith would influence his interpretation of the Constitution? Nobody would dare on the left. And if anybody on the right said that, they would be branded as the biggest, most horrible monster on the planet. So Barrett's nomination to the Seventh Circuit was also fiercely opposed by several women's rights groups. Of course, they oppose Kavanaugh. They don't oppose Keith Ellison, Attorney General. It's interesting. In public remarks, she has said she believes that life begins at conception, that she has spoken critically of Roe v. Wade. She's not going to overturn Roe v. Wade. I don't believe there's any major legislation that's working its way up to the Supreme Court that could overturn Roe v. Wade. Barrett was, I could be wrong on that, I don't think there is. Give me your thoughts. Barrett has written that she's not generally opposed to overturning Supreme Court if she believes they're, like Roe v. Wade, well, I think if she believes that they are unconstitutional. That is a leap of logic, I believe, in this article. She's never stated that she would overturn Roe v. Wade. Otherwise, it would have been glaring in large print here. I think it's very likely at this point that the court is going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Exactly, Barrett wrote. But that's still not enough. So I'm reading a Huffington Post article on Amy Coney Barrett. Again, I have no ill will and I have nothing bad to say about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, unlike the left, who, God forbid, if a conservative judge were to suffer some horrible fall, the people on the left are ruthless. If it's Acosta refusing to give up a microphone to a female, if it was, let's say, Sean Hannity refusing to give up the microphone, the same thing happened. They would say, oh my God, look at this monster, this toxic masculinity, example of toxic masculinity. The left has actually spun it to where Acosta's the victim. Give me your thoughts below. It'll be interesting to see. Now, Trump is going to have four Republicans have, in the Senate, in the midterms, have a 4-seat advantage in the Senate. So there you go. You're not going to get four Jeff Flakes. So there's absolutely nothing they can do to stop any pick from Trump. Absolutely nothing they can do. The reason they went berserk with Kavanaugh is because there was only a 2-seat buffer, and Flake and Murkowski were the ones that were like, oh, I don't know. Give me your thoughts below. You're not going to find 4 Jeff Flakes. So Democrats are absolutely finished, toast, when it comes to power in the Senate, and the Senate confirms. The Senate confirms the new AG, Attorney General, whether it's Whitaker or anyone else, and the Senate, Whitaker is the Attorney General right now. The next Attorney General, whenever that is, has to be confirmed by the Senate, and Republicans have a 4-seat advantage. The next Supreme Court pick has to be confirmed by the Senate. Republicans have a 4-seat advantage. So again, Democrats lose, even though there's a Pyrrhic victory with the House. They're not going to get anything past the Senate. Give me your thoughts. And the Senate confirms judges, confirms attorney generals. Give me your thoughts below. And you have Matthew Whitaker, who wants to indict Clinton. That will happen too. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right this second. We are on our way to 125,000. We'll get to 130,000 very soon. Thank you so very much.